Deltarune is no stranger to sad characters. Almost every single one is depressing in some way or another. Rose has to deal with not being real, Noelle has a missing sister, and Asgore got his truck dirty from running over Des. It definitely seems like no one has a good ending in store for them, and I believe that no one proves this point more than Ramb. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and let's get straight into it. Ramb is a Darkener who runs the shop inside the green room. According to him, he was a power strip taken from the library, and he asks how the Queen, Swatch, and the little mailman are, and then he steals Jevils' catchphrase. He talks fondly about the past, implying he's known Chris for many years and cares for them deeply. No matter what path you take for Chapter 3, we don't get to learn a ton about him, but we get to see a lot more if you go backstage and play with ourselves. I mean, we play with our joystick. I mean, we pull out our sword. Wait, you get what I mean. We play the game. Going to the S-rank room, we find Ramb, who tells us the game that we played was modified by Tenna. He knows that this isn't what Chris wants. They want freedom, and he lets us go backstage to get some while he looks out for Tenna. Ramb lets us play once to get the ice key, twice to get the shelter key, and by play number 3, he's already hard as a rock. But even through all of it, he still keeps watch for you. He even quits on Tenna when he starts going apeshit, bailing on his job of keeping Toriel asleep. After we literally shove him out of the way, we can talk to him again and he says he saw us make the fountain and assumes our motivation was to have some real fun again. Makes you question what that real fun was. Does Ramb know we're being puppeted around? And how long has Chris been controlled by their soul? Most likely they had free will when they were much younger, as we have stories of them doing things of their own volition. But did we start controlling them the moment Chapter 1 started, or have they been controlled for a very long time? Regardless, once we fight and defeat the Shadow Mantle, Ramb will be gone and will never appear again. But how did he vanish if he turned into stone and can't move without you pushing him away? Honestly, I have no clue. Maybe Tenna finally came backstage and took him away. Or Ramb was controlling the Shadow Mantle boss on the game and he turned into the mantle. I mean, Chris's avatar in the game is real and they can walk off screen and attack you, so I guess it wouldn't be too out of the question. But Ramb has a very distinct way of talking, very British. He always says love and hun after almost every sentence, and the mantle talks very plainly. This theory is a big old question mark, and it makes way more sense for Ramb to unconditionally care for you rather than being secretly evil. If you don't do the Shadow Mantle quest at all, Ramb will turn to stone in his shop after defeating Rule's card. If you try talking to him, a Pippin will show up to explain that Chris made him feel special because they played with him like any other toy, even though he's a power strip, and Ramb always focused on what was best for Chris. Tenna and his crew couldn't get rid of him, so he worked the stand. He never fit in with the rest of the crowd, and when trying to joke around, no one laughed. So he mixed drinks for himself since he wasn't allowed to handle the points. Then Pippin tears Ramb a new asshole by saying no one will shed a tear for him. Inside, he was probably stone already. Either way, Ramb won't ever go to your castle town. It's even more messed up since Susie goes back to your house to get Tenna so you can bring him to your castle town, but she doesn't bring Ramb. Even non-castle town characters like Spamton and Jevil are still with us as our weapon or armor, as proof of the interaction between Tenna and Spamton. Us having the deal maker is effectively carrying around Spamton with us. Ramb doesn't have any kind of gear or anything to bring with us, so it just seems like he's lost in our house forever. It's even sadder since Susie was right there. She was in the same room that he was in. She could have taken a second trip, or she could have put the power strip on top of the TV and then brought it to your town. But she didn't do it, and you didn't either. You both ditched him without a second thought, and he was on your side from minute 1. So we have an NPC who is disliked by almost everyone around him, who turns to stone regardless of what we do, and can't be saved by putting him into Castletown, and all he ever wanted to do was help Chris. Goddamn. He can't even catch a break on the Deltarune website. Going to deltarune.com/Ramb and clicking on his shop leads you to a page called Ramb, and the website title is No One Will Shed a Tear for Him. Ramb is even more depressing when you consider how much he was implied to be a big story player. He is visually out of place compared to everyone else since he is a variant of a cyberworld enemy. He knows way too much, he saw you make a fountain, he talks about freedom, just like the previous secret bosses, and only they talk about freedom, and he only really appears during a secret route where you have to explore by yourself. Given how there really isn't a secret boss for Chapter 3 and the Knight is a scripted loss no matter what, it was definitely weird for him not to be the freedom boss. People expected this guy to be like Spamton, to have a secret fight where he talked about getting freedom with a special strong armor piece or weapon depending on how you defeated him, and a theme song with the freedom motif. Instead, Ramb is just suspicious for the entire chapter and then really amounts to not doing anything besides letting us get backstage to get the mantle. He doesn't even get his own theme song. The closest thing he gets is the theme song for the S rank room called Dump, which is shared with the Z rank room. Many people, including me, suspect that Ramb was originally meant to be Chapter 3's secret boss but was cut. Not for time or development reasons, but from circumstances in the story. You see, all of the secret bosses were given a shadow crystal, something that is implied to let you see the truth behind things and is the driving force behind why the secret bosses want freedom. All the bosses give you a shadow crystal as a reward, and it drove 2 people crazy from it, and it didn't turn Gerson crazy since it didn't interest him. You only get a shadow crystal in Chapter 3 from defeating the Knight, and it's likely that the shadow crystal they dropped was meant to be given to Ramb. Let's go back to Deltarune.com/Ramb. The website, whose title is "No One Will Shed a Tear for Him," says if only you had the blank, your luck might have gone another way. No blank, no crystal. Clicking on the blank spots plays this sound. And since Chapter 3 came out, we now know that this sound effect is for the Shadow Mantle. If only you had the Shadow Mantle, your luck might have gone another way. No Shadow Mantle, no crystal. Now, this could easily just be talking to us, the player, since it is unreasonably hard to get the Knight's crystal without the mantle, and it is hinting for the player to go back and get it to beat them. But there's another way to interpret this. You get to this site by going to Deltarune.com/Ramb, then clicking on Ramb's shop, and then you get this message. And if you look at the name of the tab, it's "No One Will Shed a Tear for Him," which is a line directly referencing Ramb. So this could be the Knight talking to Ramb himself. He wasn't given the Shadow Crystal because he refused to get the mantle and defend it from Chris, but he cared so much for Chris that he gave up his own chance to get freedom, and instead he gets left abandoned in the TV world, pushed away literally, uncared for, and unwanted by those around him, whose impact was significantly less than what he let on, almost disappointing in a way. He gave up on his chance to be a big shot and reach his full potential. All of this so Chris could get the mantle and beat the Knight. Not getting the Shadow Mantle at all is even more sad since he gave up so much to help Chris only for you to breeze right by it and not take his help. He just solemnly turns into stone in his shop, alone, with the people surrounding him saying good riddance to him. His only purpose was an enabler, both literally to enable the TV for Chris to play it, and figuratively as a confidant who let Chris have real fun. His entire purpose for this chapter was for him to enable you to get the mantle, and not getting it nullifies his entire existence, ignoring someone who truly cared about you and letting them silently wilt away alone without anyone to mourn or really remember him. I mean, that's what he ends up being. He ends up being forgettable since he just lets you do what you want to without any hassle. He was meant to be a threat, someone to defend the Shadow Mantle so Chris wouldn't have a chance to defeat the Knight, but chose not to because they loved Chris that much, and as a result, he doesn't oppose you. It gives a whole new perspective on freedom that the other secret bosses iterate on. Jevil realized that everything was a game and nothing mattered, making him the only free one, and making his own freedom inside his cell. Spamton realized he wasn't free and dropped everything to try and get it, getting within arm's reach only to be stuck on his strings, which is why the freedom motif in Big Shot has whispering voices talking about the man on the phone pulling the strings. Even the theme song for his shop is plagued with the freedom motif, as if the thought of it consumes everything around him. Gerson realized that he had to make his own freedom, carving his own path unbound by the convention of the others, which is why the freedom motif in Hammer of Justice is incomplete. It's mixed with his own theme. It's his own version of freedom that he wrote in, and the Knight embodies the lack of freedom. They immediately kill Tenna when he tries disobeying them, and his theme song doesn't have the freedom motif at all. To them, there is no freedom, so they continue to fulfill the prophecy. Ramb realized he wasn't free, so instead of trying to get it for himself, he tried to at least let someone else be free, even briefly. And again, you can completely skip all of their efforts by not getting the Shadow Mantle, squandering all of their efforts to let let you be free. So that's why I think Ramb is one of the saddest characters in Deltarune. He had so much potential, but in the end, he gave it all up so Chris could attain it instead, all without getting a thank you in return and only allowing you to get freedom if you go out of your way for it, and otherwise dies without achieving anything. A truly sad, underappreciated, and tragic character that most would ignore and even fewer would care enough to look into him. While this Pippin says that no one will shed a tear for him, I'm sure a lot of the community would. People care way more about Ramb than they do about some unnamed Pippin with rude dialogue. And I even covered him in my useless facts video. He was an enemy that got scrapped in chapter 1 because his attacks weren't fun. So yeah, fuck you Pippin, don't disrespect my boy Ramb. Thank you so much for getting this far. Thank you to my patrons, Chris Griffin and Lance Rockhard. You will get early access to vids and a booster-only channel in my Discord. Really just a tip jar to support me. If you want to support for free, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. In fact, comment the character you think is the saddest in this game. There are probably sadder characters, but I think in the context of where he's placed, I think Ramb is a very sad character. But that's just my opinion. If you want to argue with me, do it in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys later.